It's just to follow up on Dylan from yesterday. Dylan Larkin, will miss the remainder of the season with the upper body injury that I spoke of yesterday. He'll be reevaluated in a couple weeks and probably ongoing from there, but he will miss the remainder of the season. Everybody tweeting.
Start off with Max Boltman from The Athletic.
Yes, I was tweeting. Obviously, a pretty big loss for your group. What do you guys have to do? I know you talked yesterday about partly kind of stepping up the defense to account for these guys, but how do you replace a Dylan in your lineup?
Well, I don't think you replace, guys like that. Certainly not by one individual. Dylan's a huge piece of our team. He's our captain. He drives our engine with his work ethic every day, both in practice and in games. But I think as you saw last night, guys understand that that just means collectively, our competition level has to be elite every night. Our work ethic has to be elite every night. We have to be a real good defensive team. Obviously, there's other guys in this team that can score, and that was illustrated last night. We don't expect to score 7 every night, though, so we got to make sure we're great defensively, and it gives lots of opportunity to different people.
Then you touched on Grice last night, but what do you think is behind this recent stretch that he's had where, he's really saved a lot of shots for you guys?
Confidence. I think confidence is a huge factor in people's success, and it's a huge factor in goalies' success. And I think the one thing that in some of the tough stretches was when, we had to play, pretty much every night. And historically, he's a better goalie on some rest than he is if he's playing every night. So that's the historic numbers say. But I also think confidence. I think he's gotten run support where in the past, certainly at the beginning of the year he had 0 run support. So he's gotten run support. I think that's a positive as well. So I don't know that it's any huge change in his game or anything like that. Like I said, I think he's at his best when he sets his feet. And I think he's worked towards that.
Thank you.
Next question, Ted Colfin, Detroit News.
I was tweeting too, by the way.
Yeah.
Would this been something that would have kept them out for weeks, probably, if this was the middle of the season, Jeff?
Yeah. This would have kept them out for a good length of time. Obviously, I think we have 2 or 3 weeks left, and it would have been at least that. If it would have been more than that. So.
Hey, going forward, I know we've asked you this a few times during the course of the season, but just something like this week with the 4 games against Dallas. I mean, it seems like it's generated a little bit of buzz, and it's been both teams seem to get into it. Is this another little part of this whole quirky schedule that you wouldn't mind seeing going forward? Playing a division team like 2 or 3 times?
I like the 2-game sets. I like the 2-game sets. I think that there's a ton of benefit to the 2-game sets. I think in maybe the marketers in the league would disagree, and that's fine. But from a travel, it's way better. From a game preparation, it's way better. I think there's a little bit of 2-game rivalry that happens in those 2 games. I don't think you necessarily need more than 2. I think some teams have played like 7 straight. That's crazy. I think if you had a perfect world, which we don't this year, which I totally understand, but in a perfect world, from my perspective, you'd go into a city, you'd play that team twice, and then maybe you'd play them later in the year if they're in your division or whatever. So you're not necessarily seeing, because teams can change through the course of the season. But the 2 games I like, 4, 6, 7 becomes a little bit more than needed.
Do you think I don't know if it's fair to say the Kaiser's all the way back, but he's definitely made strides here over the last little while, don't you think?
He's made strides. I don't think his power and his strength is what it was before the surgery. To that end, I'm not sure it ever will be. I don't know that answer. I'm not saying it won't be at all, but it might not be. That's the reality of the significance of the surgery he had. So I don't, he doesn't have quite the same pop that he would have had, but he's definitely made strides. And the two things I say with DK is one, he's worked extremely hard to get himself back in position to be as close to 100% as he can be. And he's a really smart hockey player, so he can still be a real effective hockey player for us. And I think he has been since he's got back playing here the second part.
Hope my wife sees this. Might be the best background I've had all year.
I agree.
Jeff, I appreciate it.
No problem. No problem.
Next up, answer Khan and live.
Yeah, Jeff, with Larkin, do you know yet if it's something that might require surgery, or is that still to be determined, or is it just going to need to heal on its own? Or
right now, as I said, he'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks, and if there's any different information, we'll let you know.
okay. And I understand Volano has not been cleared yet. Is that still kind of just a day-to-day thing to see how he feels after each practice?
Yeah, it's a progression as well, and so in that progression, he won't play tomorrow night. Would he be ready for Tuesday? Potentially, but I'll keep you guys abreast of that. But he will not play tomorrow night.
And no changes with Fabry. Is he still out for tomorrow, day-to-day?
Fabry's out for tomorrow, day to day.
Okay. Everybody who played last night, do you know if they're available tomorrow?
Ask me that question tomorrow. We do have, like you would assume, this time of year, playing as much as all of us are playing, there's some bumps and bruises. So we could have some guys not available that I'll know more on tomorrow.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Next up, Helene St. James, the Turkey Press.
Geez, Jeff, do you have a chart in your office of who's available and who's not? Because
We do actually, yes. It's been a hard run lately, and that happens some years, and this is unfortunately for 2 years in a row here we've been hit. Injury bug's one thing. I think man games lost is a number. I think the significance of the injuries and where those players fit within your team definitely have big impact. And certainly a year ago we missed DK the whole season basically, and that was a huge loss for us. And this year we've missed Bert for a lot of the year, but we've also then now you start getting into guys, Fabs and Larks and Bobby Ryan and Nielsen, and it just becomes a lot. But I will say, that also it gives you a chance for the group that is getting the opportunity to play to show what they're all about. And the one thing I think that's allowed our team to have success this year is when we in that elite group of work ethic and competitiveness. And I think it's a calling card for our hockey team, and I think guys have bought into it, and I think it showed last night.
has Bobby Ryan had surgery? I think that was an option when the last we talked about him was such.
Bobby has had surgery and is in the recovery process.
Okay. And Tyler, so with Tyler and Larkin, there might be a possibility of surgery, but none for either as of yet.
Nothing yet. Yep, correct.
Okay. Just going back to the point about fathers, looks like just a small window so far, but Vrana and Sedina kind of like playing with each other.
Yeah, it was a small window. Obviously it was a successful window offensively. I think both need to sharpen up, together defensively. There was some misreads in our D zone coverage that we talked about today with both of them. And if they can get that together where they're really good in our own zone, then you can play them together more and play them in all situations. And I do think they can really feed off each other well. They're both very talented players. I think Zadina's ability to make plays is underrated, and sometimes I want to make sure he takes lots of pride in that too, because he does have in the first goal he drew both defenders in and then passed it for the one-timer. It's a great shot, but it's a hell of a play to draw people in and dish it. So I think they can be a good pair. They'll get a chance to continue to show that here down the stretch, but they got to make sure that they are sharp defensively.
I open my windows on a day-to-day basis, Jeff, so.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next up, Art Regner, DesertRedWings.com. Art, you on mute?
Yeah, sorry about that. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Art.
just quickly on Veleno, once Veleno is cleared to play, maybe because you're kind of even running out of bodies at this point, he will play for the Red Wings. You expect to insert him into the lineup?
I didn't say that, Art. It's still conversation that Steve and I are taking day by day. A number of factors will play into that, including the Griffin schedule and our schedule and where it best fits when he's ready to play. Do I think that he'll have an opportunity to play for us in Detroit? I do, but I don't know that 100%, so I'm not going to, commit to that.
Okay, and I kind of follow up on what Helena was talking about. From almost day one, when the first road trip to Chicago, when you had the guys out with COVID, and I know professional sports that you never play with the roster you think you're going to play when you look at the season on paper, but how many times do you think the Red Wings have played with the lineup that maybe you and Steve envisioned this season?
I don't know the answer. I think I saw somebody write about it. It wasn't very much. So very, very little. I thought we got off to a decent start. We split those first two series, and I thought we were playing pretty good hockey. The COVID part is frustrating till this day because, we were missing a large amount of guys, and I think ever since then and before then, everybody else has gone on a pause in those situations. So that part to me is still frustrating because I think it really adversely affected our record and it affected our psyche. And that was unfortunate. But to answer your question, not very often, and that's just the reality of how the year's gone.
And one quick follow up then. I know it happens a lot, but is this, and it's been an extraordinary year for everybody, but is this the first time you can remember where you really never had maybe the lineup you envisioned? I mean, this much that, every time you turn around, somebody else is going down.
You go through different years on it, and everybody goes through it. And certainly it's been a year where, lots of pieces that you thought were going to be there weren't, and it was a lot of moving parts. And I think COVID, it does have a factor in that. And, because it affected a number of games, and then as guys come back and there's injuries and just never seem to be able to get the complete lineup on paper into games.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Yep, for sure.
That's it for us today.